The gun fired. Imani Cross didn't have time to think. 1 second, she was standing outside a Southside gas station at 2:47 in the morning, watching two men corner an elderly Korean woman by the ATM. The next second, her body was moving on instinct, her mother's voice echoing in her head like it always did when things got dangerous. Baby, you see somebody in trouble, you do something. That's who we are. She shoved the woman hard, felt the impact of expensive fabric and fragile bones against her palms, and then white-hot pain exploded through her left shoulder. The world tilted sideways. Asphalt rushed up to meet her face. Someone was screaming. Maybe it was her. The last thing she remembered was the old woman's face hovering above hers, lips moving in a language Imani didn't understand, and those eyes. Dark, calculating, unafraid despite everything that had just happened. Then nothing. When Imani opened her eyes again, she knew immediately that something was very wrong. The ceiling above her wasn't the water-stained drywall of her studio apartment. It was pristine white crown molding, the kind she'd only seen in magazines. Her fingers touched silk sheets that probably cost more than 3 months of her rent. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the Chicago skyline lit up like a postcard, and for a confused moment, she wondered if she died, and this was some kind of transitional waiting room before judgment. Then the pain in her shoulder reminded her she was very much alive. You're awake. Good. We have much to discuss. Imani jerked upright, immediately regretting it as her shoulder screamed in protest. The elderly woman from the gas station sat in a chair beside the bed, perfectly composed in a cream-colored suit that probably cost more than Imani's car. Up close, in proper lighting, Imani could see the woman was probably in her late 60s, with silver hair pulled back in an elegant knot and the kind of bone structure that spoke of old money and older bloodlines. Where am I? Imani's voice came out rough, her throat dry. What happened? I need to go. I have shifts. I have bills. You took a bullet for me. The woman's English was perfect, barely accented. The shooter fled. You collapsed. My people brought you here for treatment. You've been unconscious for 18 hours. Imani threw back the silk sheets and immediately realized she was wearing someone else's clothes. Expensive pajamas that fit her perfectly, which meant someone had undressed her, measured her, and dressed her again while she was out. The violation of it made her stomach turn. I need to leave. Right now. She stood, legs shaky, and made it 3 steps before her knees buckled. The old woman didn't move to help her, just watched with those dark, assessing eyes as Imani caught herself against the bedpost. You're weak from blood loss. Sit down before you fall down. Lady, I don't know who you are, but I can't be here. I have a job. 3 jobs actually. I have rent due in 5 days. You have an $87,000 debt from your mother's medical bills. The woman's voice was calm, factual. You work for DoorDash, Target's overnight stock team, and you babysit on weekends for the Morrison family in Lincoln Park. You send money to your father and younger brother in Atlanta every month, even though you can barely afford to eat. You haven't been to a doctor yourself in 2 years because you can't afford insurance. Shall I continue? Ice water flooded Imani's veins. How do you know that? I make it my business to know about people who interest me. And you, Miss Cross, interest me very much. Imani backed toward the door, shoulder throbbing, head spinning. This is insane. You can't just kidnap people because they helped you. Kidnap is such an ugly word. I prefer to think of it as protective custody. Call it whatever you want. I'm leaving. Imani reached the door and yanked it open. 2 men in dark suits stood in the hallway, hands clasped in front of them, faces expressionless. They didn't move, didn't speak, didn't have to. The message was clear. What the hell is this? Imani spun back to face the woman. What do you want from me? To talk. Nothing more. Though I suspect you already know this isn't a conversation you can refuse. The old woman stood with the kind of grace that came from a lifetime of commanding rooms. She walked to the windows, looked out at the city below like she owned every building in sight. My name is Yoon Wayum. That name means nothing to you now, but in certain circles, it means everything. Last night's attack at the gas station wasn't random. It was an assassination attempt. Professional. Coordinated. Meant to look like a robbery gone wrong. Then call the police. Wayung laughed, but there was no humor in it. The police. Yes, I'm sure they'd be very interested in my business dealings. Just as interested as they'd be in why a young woman with outstanding warrants for unpaid parking tickets and a suspended license was out at 3 in the morning making deliveries. Imani's jaw tightened. That's not the same thing, isn't it? We all have our secrets, Miss Cross. Our little compromises with legality. The difference is scale. So what now? You threaten me into staying quiet. On the contrary, I'm offering you an opportunity. I don't want. The door opened again. This time, the man who entered made the suited guards look like children playing dress-up. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with the kind of build that came from actual use rather than gym vanity. His face was striking in a way that made Imani's breath catch despite her fear. Sharp cheekbones and full lips, skin the color of good whiskey, eyes so dark they looked black. He wore a 3-piece suit like it was armor, every line perfect, every detail calculated. He looked at Imani like she was a problem to be solved. This is her. His voice was deep, controlled, with traces of an accent Imani couldn't place. Korean maybe, but something else underneath. This is Imani Cross. Miss Cross, my son, Ray-Yoon. The man called Ray studied her with the same assessing gaze as his mother. Imani had the sudden, uncomfortable feeling of being appraised like livestock. She's smaller than I expected. She's also standing right here, Imani snapped. And she's leaving. No, Ray said simply. You're not. Before we continue with what happens next, do you ever feel trapped by circumstances beyond your control? Like the universe just decided your life wasn't your own anymore? Drop a comment below and let me know if you've ever been in a situation where you had no good choices, only bad ones and worse ones. And if you're already hooked on Imani's story, hit that subscribe button because this is only the beginning. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens when she realizes just how deep this rabbit hole goes. Ray moved further into the room with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no in his life. He pulled out his phone, swiped through something, then turned the screen toward Imani. Her stomach dropped. The photo showed her father's apartment building in Atlanta. The timestamp read 6 hours ago. Her little brother Malik stood on the front steps, basketball under his arm, completely unaware he was being photographed. That's not a threat, Ray said, pocketing the phone. Just information. Your family is safe. I want to keep it that way. You son of a... Careful. His voice didn't rise, but something in it made Imani's words die in her throat. I'm not the villain in this story, Miss Cross. I'm the reason you're still breathing. The men who attacked my mother? They're part of an organization called the Lotus Syndicate, run by a man who calls himself Viper. Very creative, I know. These people don't leave witnesses. The moment you interfered, you painted a target on your back. So let me go? I'll disappear. I'm good at that. You can't disappear from people with the kind of resources Viper has. He has contacts in every police precinct, every hospital, every shelter in this city. You run, he finds you. Then he makes an example of you to send me a message. Imani's legs felt weak again. She sank onto the edge of the bed, mind racing. What do you want from me? Wai-young spoke up. Sit down, Ray. You're frightening the poor girl. She should be frightened. Fear keeps people alive. But he sat anyway, in the chair his mother had vacated, and suddenly the room felt smaller. Imani could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle that probably cost more than her monthly grocery budget. Here's the situation, Ray said. My organization is in flux. I inherited my father's business when I was 17. Nigerian networks, import-export, protection services. When I turned 21, my mother brought me into her family's operations. Korean connections, old world traditions, different rules. For 11 years, I've been trying to unite these two worlds under one banner. I don't care about your gangster empire problems. You should, because in 3 days, I'm going to announce my engagement. To you. The words hung in the air like smoke. Imani stared at him, certain she'd misheard. Excuse me. An engagement. Leading to marriage. A union between outsider and family, between someone with no ties to either faction and the man trying to unite them both. My mother believes it will work. I think she's right. Are you insane? Imani stood up again, adrenaline overriding the pain in her shoulder. You can't just decide to marry someone like you're ordering takeout. I can. And I am. I'll refuse. I'll tell everyone you're forcing me. You could. But then I can't protect your family. And Viper will send his people to finish what they started. Ray leaned back in the chair, perfectly relaxed. Or you can agree. Play the role. Live here in complete safety and luxury. Your debts will disappear. Your father and brother will have security they don't even know exists. After 1 year, if you want out, you walk away with $2 million and a new identity anywhere in the world you choose. This is human trafficking. No, this is a business arrangement. You're free to refuse. But refusal comes with consequences I can't control. Imani looked at Wai-young, searching for some hint of sanity in this madness. The old woman's face was serene, almost kind. You saved my life, child. I don't forget debts. In my culture, in the world I come from, that creates a bond. A responsibility. I could have let Ray handle this his way, with threats and force. Instead, I'm offering you a choice. A real one. Life as you know it. Always looking over your shoulder. Always one emergency away from complete destruction. Or life is something more. Something powerful. I don't want power. I want my life back. Your life was already over. Wai-young's voice was gentle but firm. The moment you stepped between me and that bullet, your old life ended. You just didn't know it yet. This is your rebirth. What you become is up to you. Imani's hands were shaking. She pressed them against her thighs, trying to think through the fog of fear and exhaustion. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to fight, to do anything but submit to this insanity. But the image of Malik on those steps, vulnerable and unaware, kept flashing through her mind. How do I know you'll keep your word? About my family. You don't. Ray stood, buttoning his suit jacket. But consider this. If I wanted to hurt you or yours, I wouldn't need elaborate schemes. I'm offering you a way forward where everyone wins. I get the political marriage I need. You get safety and compensation. Your family stays untouched. It's remarkably efficient. And if I say no, then you walk out that door? My mother and I forget we ever met you. But Viper won't. His people are already looking for the woman from the gas station. How long do you think it takes them to find a DoorDash driver with 3 jobs and a recognizable face? The trap closed around her with elegant simplicity. Imani could feel it, cold and tight, squeezing out every option except the one they wanted her to take. I need time to think. You have until tomorrow morning. After that, we move forward with or without your cooperation. Ray walked to the door, paused. There's food in the kitchen. Clothes in the closet, all your size. A doctor will check your shoulder this evening. Try to rest, Miss Cross. You're going to need your strength for what comes next. He left without waiting for a response. Young moved to follow but stopped at the threshold. I know what you're thinking. That we're monsters. Perhaps we are. But monsters protect their own with a ferocity normal people can't imagine. You shed blood for me. That makes you one of us now, whether you accept it or not. Then she was gone too, and Imani was alone with her thoughts and the weight of an impossible choice. She went to the window, pressed her forehead against the cool glass. The city sprawled below, millions of lights representing millions of lives. Normal lives. People going to work, coming home, living in the blessed ignorance of safety. She'd been one of them yesterday. Now she was something else. Something trapped. The door opened again. Imani spun, expecting Ray or his mother, but it was a young woman in a maid's uniform carrying a tray of food. Mr. Yoon said you might be hungry. Her accent was East African, Eritrean maybe. She set the tray on a side table. I'm Zahara. I run the household staff. How long have you worked here? 6 years. Is he? Imani struggled for words. Is Ray as bad as he seems? Zahara's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Mr. Yoon is fair. He protects the people who work for him. His enemies fear him for good reason. His allies trust him for better ones. That's all I can tell you. That's not an answer. It's the only answer you'll get tonight. Eat. You look like death. Zahara moved toward the door. One more thing. Mrs. Yoon chose you specifically. She's never been wrong about people. Not once in all the years I've known her. If she thinks you belong here, you probably do. Then she was gone, leaving Imani alone with food she couldn't eat and thoughts she couldn't organize. She looked at her phone, plugged in and charging on the nightstand. She hadn't even noticed it before. She grabbed it, unlocked it, and her heart sank. 7 missed calls from the DoorDash dispatch. 12 texts from her father asking if she was okay. 3 voicemails from bill collectors. Her normal life, still spinning along, not knowing it was already dead. She pulled up her messages to Malik, fingers hovering over the keyboard. What could she even say? Hey little brother, I got shot saving a crime boss's mom, and now I'm being forced into an arranged marriage with her scary son. Hope you're doing well in school. Instead, she typed, everything's fine. Got a new job opportunity. Might be out of touch for a few days. Love you. She hit send before she could overthink it. The next morning came too fast. Imani had barely slept, her mind cycling through escape plans that all ended the same way. Trapped. Cornered. Outmaneuvered by people who played games she didn't understand with stakes she couldn't afford. Zahara brought breakfast at 7, along with an outfit laid out on the bed. A cream silk blouse and tailored black pants that fit like they'd been made for her body specifically. Probably had been, Imani realized with growing unease. How long had they been watching her before the gas station? How much of that night had actually been coincidence? Mrs. Yoon would like to see you at 8, Zahara said. I can help you dress if your shoulder. I can manage. But she couldn't, not really. The pain when she lifted her arm made her gasp. Zahara stepped in smoothly, helping her into the blouse without comment, her hands gentle and professional. You'll adjust, Zahara said quietly. Everyone does. Is that supposed to be comforting? It's supposed to be true. At 8 exactly, a different guard appeared at her door. This one was massive, 6'5" at least, with dark skin and the kind of scars that spoke of serious violence survived. He wore a suit that probably required custom tailoring. Miss Cross. I'm Kim. I'll be your personal security. My what? Starting today, I go everywhere you go. Mrs. Yoon's orders. His accent was Nigerian, thick and musical. Before you ask, yes, even the bathroom. I wait outside, of course. I'm professional, not a pervert. This is ridiculous. This is survival. Let's go. He led her through the mansion, and Imani couldn't help cataloging details. 15-foot ceilings. Original artwork she recognized from museum exhibits. Marble floors that probably cost more than most houses. Security cameras hidden in crown molding. Armed men positioned at strategic intervals, all pretending to be staff. This wasn't just wealth. This was power. Young waited in a sunroom that overlooked private gardens. She sat at a small table with tea service that looked antique, and probably was. Morning light made her look softer, almost grandmotherly, but Imani wasn't fooled anymore. Sit, child. Have you decided? Imani remained standing. I have questions first. Of course you do. Ask. The gas station. That wasn't random, was it? You knew they were coming. A small smile touched Young's lips. Very good. You're clever. Yes, I knew. I received intelligence about the attack 3 days prior. I could have avoided it, sent extra security, stayed home. Instead, I went exactly where they expected me to be. Why would you do that? To see who would come. To identify Viper's local operatives. To understand his methods. She poured tea with steady hands. And to find what I'd been searching for. Someone with the courage to act when others freeze. Someone with nothing to lose, but everything to fight for. Someone uncorrupted by our world, but strong enough to survive in it. The manipulation of it stole Imani's breath. You used me. I gave you an opportunity. There's a difference. You could have died. But I didn't. Because you were exactly who I believed you to be. Sit down, Imani. Please. Your shoulder must be hurting. It was, but Imani refused to show weakness. She sat anyway, accepting the tea Young poured because refusing felt petty. What happens if I say yes? What exactly does this engagement mean? Publicly, you'll be introduced as Ray's fiancé. There will be a party in 3 days where both sides of his organization will meet you. Korean and Nigerian factions, all the captains and lieutenants who keep our operations running. You'll smile, be gracious, play the role of the devoted future bride. And privately, you'll learn how we operate, who our enemies are, what this life actually requires. You'll have tutors for Korean language and culture, combat training, financial literacy, everything you need to survive and eventually thrive in this world. I don't want to thrive in organized crime. Don't you? Young's eyes were sharp over the rim of her teacup. You've spent your whole life being crushed by systems designed to keep people like you poor and powerless. Student loans, medical debt, jobs that pay nothing and demand everything. The American dream, they call it. But it's a lie, isn't it? You work yourself to exhaustion and die anyway, leaving nothing behind but more debt for the people you love. The words hit too close to home. Imani looked away. Here, you have real power. Real choice. Yes, the work is dangerous. Yes, the stakes are high. But at least you're fighting for something tangible. At least you matter. I mattered before. Did you? Or were you just another invisible cog in a machine that didn't care if you lived or died? Young set down her cup. I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm trying to be honest. This world made you a victim. I'm offering to make you something else. A criminal. A queen. There's a difference. Before Imani could respond, Ray entered the sunroom. He'd traded last night's suit for something more casual, dark jeans, and a black sweater that somehow made him look more dangerous, not less. Has she agreed? He asked his mother. We're discussing terms. There are no terms. She agrees or she doesn't. Everyone negotiates, Ray. Even in captivity, people want the illusion of control. He turned to Imani. Fine. What do you want? Proof that my family is safe. Real proof, not just your word. Done. What else? My own room. Not locked in anywhere. You'll have an entire wing. Guards outside, not inside. Next, Imani's mind raced. If she was really doing this, if she was really stepping into hell, she needed leverage. Something that gave her value beyond just being Ray's political prop. I want to be useful, not just decorative. If I'm risking my life for this, I want actual purpose. Something flickered in Ray's expression. Surprise, maybe. Or respect. What kind of purpose? I don't know yet. But I'm smart and I learn fast. My mother was a surgical nurse for 20 years. I was 2 semesters from finishing my nursing degree before she got sick. I know medicine, anatomy, trauma response. I can read people. I can think under pressure. Use me for something real, or this engagement is just window dressing. Young was smiling openly now. I told you she was special. Ray studied Imani for a long moment. All right, you want purpose? You'll get it. But understand something first. In our world, being useful means seeing things you can't unsee. Knowing things that will keep you awake at night. There's no going back once you cross certain lines. Sounds like I already crossed them the moment I woke up in this house. Fair enough. He pulled out his phone, made a call. Tobias, come to the sunroom. I want you to meet someone. He hung up, turned back to Imani. Tobias is my second in command on the Nigerian side. Former military, loyal to my father, skeptical of me. If you can win him over, you can win over anyone. Is this a test? Everything is a test. You just didn't realize it until now. 5 minutes later, a man entered who made Kim look small. Tobias was pure muscle and controlled violence, with tribal scarification on his cheeks and eyes that had seen too much death. He looked at Imani the way someone looks at a bug they're deciding whether to crush. This is the girl? Woman, Imani corrected. I'm 26, not 12. Tobias's eyebrows rose slightly. Does she know what she's agreeing to? She's learning, Ray said. I want you to take her through the building. Show her how we operate. Answer her questions. Within reason. Boss, with respect, this is a mistake. She's a civilian. She'll panic at the first sign of. She took a bullet from my mother. She's seen blood. Hers and others. Show her the rest. Tobias looked like he wanted to argue, but knew better. Yes, sir. Come on. Girl, woman. Let's see how tough you really are. Imani followed him out of the sunroom, and Kim trailing behind like a silent shadow. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Whatever came next, she'd asked for it. No more pretending she was just a victim of circumstance. If she was going to survive this world, she needed to understand it. Even if understanding it changed her forever. Tobias led her down into the basement, and with each step, The mansion's elegant facade fell away. The basement was nothing like the opulent floors above. Concrete walls, fluorescent lighting, the smell of gun oil, and something metallic Imani didn't want to identify. Men in tactical gear moved through the space with military precision, checking weapons, reviewing security feeds on wall-mounted monitors, speaking in low voices that cut off when they noticed her. "This is Command Central," Tobias said, his voice echoing off the concrete. 24/7 monitoring of our territories. South Side, West Side, parts of Chinatown. We track police movements, rival gang activity, shipment schedules. Everything that keeps this operation running happens down here. Imani studied the monitors. Dozens of camera feeds showing warehouses, street corners, the interiors of what looked like legitimate businesses. How many people work for Ray? Directly? Maybe 200. Indirectly? Thousands. Truck drivers, store owners, dock workers, accountants. Most don't even know they're part of the network. They just know someone pays them better than anyone else and doesn't ask stupid questions. And the police? What about them? They just let all this happen. Tobias laughed, sharp and bitter. Let it happen? Girl, half of them are on the payroll. The other half know better than to look too close. This city runs on 3 things: money, fear, and mutual benefit. We provide all 3. He moved to a weapons locker, pulled out a handgun, checked the chamber with practiced ease. You ever shoot before? No. You will. Can't walk around as Mrs. Yoon without knowing how to defend yourself. Kim will train you, but first rule, never pull a gun unless you're ready to use it. Hesitation gets you killed. I'm not killing anyone. That's what they all say. Then someone threatens something you love, and suddenly morality becomes negotiable. He holstered the weapon. Come on, I want to show you something else. They moved deeper into the basement complex, through a reinforced door that required both a key card and fingerprint scan. The room beyond was smaller, colder. A man sat zip-tied to a chair, face bloodied, breathing ragged. 2 of Ray's people stood guard, arms crossed. Imani's stomach turned. What is this? Information extraction. This idiot works for Viper. Got caught planting surveillance equipment in one of our warehouses yesterday. We've been asking him questions. He's been uncooperative. The man in the chair looked up at Imani through swollen eyes. He couldn't have been more than 25. Blood dripped from his nose onto his shirt. Why are you showing me this? Imani's voice came out steadier than she felt. Because this is reality. No filters, no pretty lies. You want to be useful? You need to understand what useful looks like in our world. This man was sent to hurt us. To gather intelligence that would get our people killed. He made his choice. Now he lives with consequences. Torture is illegal. So is most of what we do. You having second thoughts? Imani forced herself to look at the prisoner. Really look. His hands were shaking. Fear and adrenaline. But underneath that, she recognized something else. The set of his jaw. The way he kept glancing at the door. He was waiting for something. Rescue maybe, or an opportunity. He's not going to talk, she said quietly. Tobias turned to her, surprised. What makes you say that? Body language. He's terrified, but not broken. He keeps looking at that door like he expects it to open. Either he thinks someone's coming for him, or he's got an escape plan. Either way, beating him more won't change anything. The guards exchanged glances. Tobias studied her with new interest. Observant. What would you do instead? I'd stop trying to scare him and start offering him something he wants more than loyalty to Viper. Like what? I don't know. I don't know him. But everyone has pressure points. Everyone has something they value more than abstract loyalty. You just have to find it. Tobias was quiet for a moment, then nodded to the guards. Get him cleaned up. Different approach. I'll tell the boss. He turned back to Imani. Maybe you're not completely useless after all. They left the interrogation room, Imani's hands shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. She'd just stood there and watched a man being tortured. Worse, she'd offered strategic advice on how to break him. What did that make her? You did good in there, and Kim said quietly as they climbed back upstairs. Kept your head. A lot of people would have panicked or tried to play hero. I didn't do anything good. I just didn't fall apart. In this world, that's the same thing. They emerged back into the mansion proper, and the contrast was jarring. Beautiful artwork, soft music playing from hidden speakers, the smell of expensive flowers. 2 different realities occupying the same space. Zahara met them in the hallway. Miss Cross, Mrs. Yoon would like you to join her for lunch. You have 2 hours to rest and prepare. Imani wanted to refuse, to lock herself in her room and process everything she'd just seen. But refusing wasn't an option anymore. She'd agreed to this, even if the agreement had been made under duress. Fine. Where? The dining room. East wing. I'll collect you at noon. Back in her assigned room, Imani sat on the edge of the massive bed and tried to sort through her thoughts. 3 days ago, she'd been delivering Korean fried chicken and worrying about her electric bill. Now she was living in a mansion, watching torture sessions, and preparing to marry a crime lord. Her phone buzzed. A text from her father. Malik said you got a new job. That's great, baby girl. Call when you can. Love you. Guilt twisted in her chest. Her father had no idea where she really was or what she'd gotten into. He thought his daughter was finally catching a break. Instead, She'd fallen into something so much worse than debt and poverty. Or had she? The question nagged at her. Was this really worse? Yes, it was dangerous. Yes, it was illegal. But she had a room nicer than anywhere she'd ever lived. Her shoulder had been treated by what was clearly a skilled private physician. Her debts were apparently going to disappear. Her family would be safe. All she had to do was sell her soul. A knock at the door interrupted her spiral. Ray entered without waiting for permission, still in his casual clothes, looking less like a crime boss and more like some tech CEO, slumming it on the weekend. Tobias says you impressed him. That's not easy. I didn't do anything special. You kept calm in a situation designed to make people panic. You analyzed instead of reacted. That's more special than you think. He moved to the window, looked out at the gardens. The engagement party is in 2 days. Korean and Nigerian factions will both attend. Some of these people have been skeptical of my leadership since my father died. They see me as too young, too mixed, too different from what they're used to. You'll help change that. How? By being exactly what you were in that interrogation room. Smart, observant, unshakable. They'll test you, try to make you uncomfortable, say things designed to make you react. You need to smile through all of it and make them believe you belong. I don't belong. Not yet, but you will. He turned to face her. My mother sees something in you. She's never wrong about people. If she thinks you can handle this world, then you can. The question is whether you believe it. I don't. Then fake it. Fake confidence is indistinguishable from real confidence to people who don't know you. And nobody here knows you. That's your advantage. You can be whoever you decide to be. What if I decide to be someone who turns you all into the FBI? Then you'd be dead before the call connected, and your family would follow shortly after. But you won't do that because you're not stupid and you understand leverage. He moved toward the door. Lunch with my mother. Be charming. She's deciding how much of the real operation to show you. Impress her, and you get access to information that makes you valuable. Disappoint her, and you stay decorative. I thought I already agreed to this. You agreed to the engagement. Everything else is earned. Welcome to the family business, Miss Cross. He left, and Imani was alone again with choices that weren't really choices and a future that looked nothing like anything she'd ever imagined. At noon, Zahara collected her and led her to a dining room that could have seated 30 but was set for just 2. Wai-young sat at the head of the table, perfectly composed in a lavender suit that probably cost 5 figures. Sit, child. I hope you're hungry. Staff appeared with dishes that looked like they belonged in a Michelin-starred restaurant. Korean cuisine mixed with soul food in ways that shouldn't work, but somehow did. Braised short ribs with gochujang, collard greens with kimchi, cornbread with honey butter and sesame seeds. Fusion cuisine, Wai-young explained. My husband's favorite. He loved finding common ground between our cultures. Food was the easiest place to start. Ray's father. He died. Murdered. 11 years ago. A rival tried to take his territory. They succeeded in killing him, but failed to account for his teenage son's capacity for revenge. Her voice was steady, but something cold flickered in her eyes. Ray spent 2 years hunting down everyone involved. When he was finished, there was no rival organization left to oppose him. The casual way Wai-young spoke about mass murder made Imani's appetite vanish. She pushed food around her plate, trying to reconcile the elegant woman across from her with the architect of violence. You think I'm a monster, Wai-young said, reading her expression. Perhaps I am. But let me tell you about monsters, Imani. Real monsters don't announce themselves. They wear badges and business suits. They write laws that keep people trapped in cycles of poverty. They deny healthcare and education and opportunity, then blame the victims for failing to thrive. My husband came to this country with nothing. He built something from that nothing. And the moment he became successful, the system tried to tear it down. So he worked outside the system. And yes, he hurt people. But he also fed thousands, employed hundreds, gave hope to communities everyone else had abandoned. That doesn't justify. I'm not justifying anything. I'm explaining context. My son inherited a war he didn't start. He could have walked away, gone legitimate, tried to build something clean. But that would have meant abandoning everyone who depended on his father's protection. Families, children, people who had nowhere else to turn. So he stayed, and he fought, and he won. That's who you're agreeing to marry. A man who chose responsibility over safety. Imani set down her fork. Why me? Really? You could have found someone from within your world. Someone who understands this life. Why drag in an outsider? Wai-young smiled. Because insiders come with baggage. Family obligations. Old grudges. Hidden loyalties. You have none of that. You're a blank slate. More importantly, you're proof that this organization is bigger than bloodlines and old grudges. When people see that Ray chose someone who saved my life out of pure instinct, someone with no agenda and no connections, it sends a message. We value loyalty and courage over pedigree. And if I mess up, if I say the wrong thing or offend the wrong person, then you learn from it. I don't expect perfection, Imani. I expect effort. Show me you're trying to understand this world, and I'll protect you from your mistakes. Show me you're sabotaging it, and Ray's offer of $2 million and a new identity becomes significantly less appealing. The threat was delivered with the same gentle tone she'd used to discuss food. That's what made it terrifying. I met someone in the basement today, Imani said, changing subjects. One of Viper's people. He's not going to break from physical pressure. I heard. Tobias was impressed with your assessment. What would you suggest? I don't know enough about him. What's his name? Does he have family? What does he care about more than his loyalty to Viper? Young's eyes glittered with interest. His name is David Park, 24 years old. Younger brother in college at Northwestern. Mother works as a seamstress in Chinatown. Father died of lung cancer 3 years ago, leaving the family with significant debt. Viper recruited him by paying off that debt and covering the brother's tuition. So he's not loyal to Viper. He's trapped by obligation, just like me. An astute observation. Then offer him a better deal. Pay his brother's tuition for the next 3 years. Set up his mother with a better job, something stable that doesn't destroy her hands. Give him a way out that doesn't feel like betrayal. And if he still refuses? If Viper has more leverage we don't know about, then at least you tried something that didn't involve breaking his bones. But I think he'll take it. People don't die for organizations. They die for family. Give him a way to protect his family better than Viper can, and he'll flip. Young was quiet for a long moment, studying Imani with an intensity that made her want to squirm. Ray was right. You do think differently. Most people in our world default to violence because it's quick and it sends messages. But violence is expensive and it creates enemies. Your approach is subtler, more sustainable. I'm not trying to help you be a better crime organization, aren't you? The moment you offered that suggestion, you became complicit. You're already helping, whether you admit it or not. She dabbed her lips with a napkin. I'm going to give you a gift, Imani. Information. Real information about how this organization actually works. Not the violence and drugs that people imagine when they think organized crime. The boring truth underneath. She gestured and staff appeared to clear the table, replacing dishes with a laptop. Young opened it, pulled up spreadsheets and documents. This is a construction company we own. Completely legitimate. It employs 200 people at union wages with full benefits. This is a chain of laundromats across the south side. Also legitimate. They provide services to neighborhoods where commercial chains won't operate. This is a logistics company that handles shipping for dozens of small businesses that can't afford their own distribution networks. She scrolled through more files. Yes, we have illegal operations. Protection rackets, though we prefer to call them security services. Gambling that the state has no business regulating. Import and export of goods that arbitrary laws have deemed contraband. But the majority of what we do is fill gaps that legitimate society has abandoned. We're the bank that loans money to people with bad credit. The security force that protects neighborhoods police have given up on. The employment agency for people with records that no one else will hire. You're describing yourselves as heroes. No, we're criminals. But we're criminals who provide value. The people in our territories don't call the police when there's trouble. They call us. Because we actually respond. We actually solve problems. Is that ideal? Of course not. But in the absence of functional government services, someone has to step in. Imani stared at the laptop screen, at the neat rows of data that made violence look like business. You're trying to make me feel better about this. I'm trying to give you perspective. The world isn't divided into good people and bad people. It's divided into people who acknowledge the complexity of survival and people who have the luxury of pretending morality is simple. Young closed the laptop. Now, let's discuss the engagement party. You'll need appropriate attire. Jewelry that sends the right message. An understanding of who the key players are and what they'll be evaluating you on. The next 2 days passed in a blur of preparation that felt like being drafted into a war Imani didn't understand. Language tutors appeared to teach her basic Korean phrases. She learned to bow properly, how to address elders with respect, the difference between formal and casual speech. Her tongue struggled with unfamiliar sounds, but she pushed through, aware that every mistake was being cataloged and assessed. Combat training with Kim started at 6 each morning. He taught her how to throw a proper punch, how to break someone's grip, where to strike for maximum impact. Her shoulder screamed with every movement, but she didn't complain. Weakness was a liability she couldn't afford. You're stronger than you look, Kim said after she successfully flipped him during a grappling exercise. Good instincts. But you hesitate. That'll get you killed. I'm not trying to kill anyone. Maybe not. But they'll be trying to kill you. Better to be ready. Evenings were spent with Young, learning the intricate web of relationships that held Ray's organization together. Korean families who'd been in Chicago for 3 generations, carrying old-world traditions and older grudges. Nigerian networks that had transplanted West African tribal dynamics into South Side street politics. Everyone jockeying for position, testing boundaries, looking for advantages. Marcus Okafor will be there, Young said, showing Imani a photograph of a handsome man in his 30s. Ray's most trusted captain on the Nigerian side. He fought alongside Ray's father. Very loyal, but also very traditional. He'll be skeptical of you. Because I'm not Nigerian? Because you're not from our world at all. He'll see you as a potential weak point. Proof that Ray is prioritizing politics over substance. What do I say to him? Nothing. Let your presence speak for itself. Marcus respects action, not words. Show him you're not afraid. and he'll come around eventually. Imani memorized faces and names until they blurred together. Sang-mi, Ray's cousin, who managed the Korean faction's finances with ruthless efficiency. Chin-wei, who controlled the Chinatown gambling operations. Ambassador Ah Kong-kwo, technically retired from the Nigerian diplomatic corps, but actually the organization's primary connection to West African import networks. Dozens of others, each with their own agendas and allegiances. The night before the party, Ray summoned her to his office on the 3rd floor. She'd never been in his personal space before. It was surprisingly sparse. Minimal furniture, lots of windows, shelves lined with books on strategy and philosophy. A photograph on the desk showed a younger Ray with a tall, powerfully built man who had to be his father. Same eyes, same intensity. Tomorrow night will be difficult, Ray said without preamble. Some of these people have known me since I was a child. They remember when I was powerless. When my father's death left us vulnerable. They'll be looking for any sign that I'm not strong enough to lead. And I'm supposed to help with that how? By being exactly what you are. Someone who doesn't flinch. Someone who sees clearly and acts decisively. The story of how we met is already legend. The woman who took a bullet for my mother. Some will see that as noble. Others will see it as stupid. Neither matters. What matters is that you proved you don't freeze under pressure. I was terrified. Being terrified and acting anyway is the definition of courage. They'll test you tomorrow. Pointed questions. Veiled insults. Someone will definitely make a racist comment disguised as curiosity. You need to handle all of it with grace. I've been handling racist comments my whole life. Not like these. These will come from people who have the power to make you disappear if they decide you're a threat. He leaned against his desk. There's something else you should know. Viper will be watching tomorrow night. He has spies in my organization. I don't know who they are yet, but they're there. Whatever happens at that party will get back to him within hours. So we need to project absolute unity. Absolute strength. You're saying there's a traitor in your inner circle. At least one. Possibly more. That's why I need you sharp tomorrow. Watch people. Notice who asks what questions. Who seems too interested in our security arrangements. Who steps away to make phone calls at odd moments. You're an outsider. You see things differently than people who've been in this world too long. Imani thought about David Park in the basement. About the interrogation she'd witnessed. Did you take my advice? About offering him a better deal? I did. His brother's tuition is paid through graduation. His mother starts a new job Monday at one of our legitimate businesses, triple her current salary. David gave us 3 safe house locations and the names of 5 other Viper operatives in exchange. So torture doesn't work, but basic human decency does. Imagine that. Ray almost smiled. Don't get sanctimonious. We still would have broken him eventually. Your way was just faster and cheaper. That's valuable in business. This isn't business. It's people's lives. It's both. That's what you need to understand. Every decision I make affects hundreds of families. If I show weakness, rival organizations move in. People die. Children lose parents. Widows lose income. The violence you find so distasteful? It's what keeps a larger violence at bay. Sometimes the only way to protect people is to be more dangerous than their enemies. That's a convenient rationalization. It's reality. You can judge me for it, or you can understand it. Either way, tomorrow night you stand beside me and smile like you believe in what we're doing. Because if you don't, if you show even a flicker of doubt, someone will exploit it. He moved closer, and Imani became acutely aware of how much space he took up in the room. How much presence he carried without even trying. One more thing. We'll need to sell the romance. Not overtly. We're not teenagers fumbling through first love. But there needs to be something visible. Comfortable proximity. A touch on the arm. Eye contact that suggests familiarity. Can you do that? Her mouth went dry. I can try. Trying isn't good enough. These people are predators. They smell hesitation. They'll know if we're faking. We are faking. That's the whole point of this arrangement. Then we need to fake it convincingly. He studied her face like he was memorizing details. You're not what I expected when my mother first suggested this plan. What did you expect? Someone more desperate. More obviously grateful for the opportunity. Someone easier to control. Sorry to disappoint. You didn't. Disappointed would mean I wanted something different. I'm finding that I prefer exactly what I got. Someone who pushes back. Who questions. Who doesn't just accept the world as it's presented. He stepped back, creating distance again. Get some rest. Tomorrow is going to be exhausting. Imani left his office with her heart racing and her thoughts tangled. She was starting to understand him, and that felt dangerous. Easier to hate him when he was just an abstract villain. Harder when she saw the impossible weight he carried, the constant calculations required to keep everyone alive. That night, sleep came in fragments. She dreamed of the gas station, but in the dream, she didn't push Wayung out of the way. She just stood there frozen while the gun fired again and again. She woke gasping, shoulder throbbing, alone in a room too big and too expensive to feel safe. The day of the engagement party arrived with artificial brightness. Zahara and a team of stylists invaded Imani's room at dawn, turning her into someone she barely recognized. Hair twisted into an elegant updo that exposed her neck and shoulders. Makeup applied with precision that emphasized her eyes and cheekbones. A dress that must have cost more than her car, deep emerald silk that hugged her curves and made her look dangerous. You look like royalty, Zahara said, stepping back to admire their work. I look like a very expensive lie. Same thing in this world. Hwayoung appeared at 6, an hour before guests would arrive. She wore traditional Korean hanbok in midnight blue, every detail perfect, looking like she'd stepped out of a historical drama. But her eyes were sharp, assessing. Stunning. The dress was the right choice. Korean enough to show respect, modern enough to show you're not trying to be something you're not. She circled Imani slowly. How do you feel? Terrified. Good. Fear keeps you alert. Just don't let anyone see it. She produced a jewelry box, opened it to reveal a necklace that made Imani's breath catch. Jade and diamonds arranged in a pattern that was somehow both Korean and contemporary. This belonged to Ray's grandmother. Wearing it sends a message about your place in this family. I'm not actually part of this family. You are the moment you put this on. Everything changes after tonight, Imani. You understand that, yes? Right now you're a captive playing a role. After tonight, you're something else. Someone people will fear or respect or want to destroy. There's no going back to being invisible. Imani's hands shook as Hwayoung fastened the necklace. The weight of it felt symbolic. A chain disguised as jewelry. I need you to do something for me tonight, Hwayoung continued. Watch Marcus Okafor. I trust him, but trust is a luxury we can't always afford. He's been unusually interested in our security protocols lately. It's probably nothing, but I want a second opinion from someone he won't be guarding himself around. You think he might be Viper's spy? I think everyone is potentially Viper's spy until proven otherwise. That's how you survive in this business. The first guests began arriving at 7. Imani watched from an upstairs window as luxury cars filled the circular driveway. Men in expensive suits. Women in designer dresses. Everyone arriving with an entourage, everyone projecting power. Ray appeared at her door dressed in a tailored black suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. He looked every inch the dangerous prince he was raised to be. Ready? No. Perfect. Neither am I. That's what makes us honest. He offered his arm. Remember, you belong here. Anyone who suggests otherwise is trying to unsettle you. Don't let them. They descended the grand staircase together, and Imani felt hundreds of eyes tracking their movement. The crowd parted naturally, creating a path to the main reception room where the formal announcement would happen. Hwayoung stood at the center, commanding attention without effort. When she saw them, she smiled with what might have been genuine warmth. Everyone, thank you for coming. Tonight we celebrate not just an engagement, but the future of our family. She gestured to Ray and Imani. My son has chosen well. Imani Cross saved my life without hesitation, without thought for her own safety. That kind of courage, that kind of loyalty, is what this organization values above all else. I know you will welcome her as I have. Polite applause. Calculating stares. Imani felt dissected by 100 different assessments happening simultaneously. Then Marcus Okafor stepped forward. He was exactly as imposing in person as his photograph suggested. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of presence that came from real combat experience. Miss Cross, we're honored to meet the woman brave enough to take a bullet for Mrs. Yoon. That's the kind of action that earns respect in our world. He extended his hand. Imani shook it, meeting his eyes directly. I appreciate that, Mr. Okafor. Though I hope my value to this family extends beyond that one moment. Something flickered in his expression. Surprise maybe. Or respect. I'm sure it does. Ray doesn't make careless decisions. If he chose you, there's a reason. But his eyes said he hadn't decided what that reason was yet. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like everyone was measuring whether you belonged there? Like you were one wrong word away from being exposed as a fraud? That's what Imani's facing right now. Except her stakes are life and death. Drop a comment about a time you had to fake confidence until you made it real. And if you're invested in seeing whether Imani survives this night, smash that like button and subscribe because things are about to get very complicated very fast. The next 2 hours were a masterclass in social combat, disguised as polite conversation. Person after person approached with smiles that didn't reach their eyes, asking questions designed to expose weakness or ignorance. So you're not Korean at all? How fascinating that Ray would choose someone so outside our traditions. I understand you were working as a delivery driver when you met? What a romantic story. Your family must be so proud. Do they know about Ray's business ventures? Imani navigated each trap with the grace Hwayoung had taught her, deflecting without being defensive, acknowledging without apologizing. Yes, she was an outsider. That was precisely why she was valuable. Fresh perspective. No old grudges. Pure loyalty born from gratitude rather than obligation. But it was exhausting. Every conversation required 3 layers of analysis. What they were really asking. What they wanted her to reveal. How to answer without giving them ammunition. By the time servers began circulating with champagne, Imani's face hurt from maintaining a pleasant expression. Ray stayed close, a constant presence at her elbow. His hand occasionally found the small of her back, a touch that looked intimate but felt strategic. They were performing for an audience that graded on survival. You're doing well, he murmured during a brief moment alone. Better than well. Marcus is watching you like you're a puzzle he can't solve. That's exactly what we want. He keeps asking about my family. Very casual questions, but pointed. What did you tell him? That they're in Atlanta. That they're proud of me. Nothing specific. But he's fishing for leverage, isn't he? Ways to pressure me if needed. Probably. Or he's just being thorough. Marcus was my father's right hand. He takes security seriously. The fact that you noticed his pattern says you're learning. A commotion near the entrance drew everyone's attention. A woman had arrived late, making an entrance that demanded notice. She was stunning in the way that came from genetic luck and expensive maintenance. Korean features, flawless skin, designer dress that probably required a team to get into. She moved through the crowd with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. Ray's expression hardened almost imperceptibly. Who is she? Imani asked. Sangmi, my cousin. She runs our financial operations and has never forgiven me for inheriting leadership instead of her father. Be very careful around her. She's brilliant and vindictive in equal measure. Sangmi approached with a smile that was all teeth and no warmth. Ray, how wonderful to finally meet your mysterious bride-to-be. She turned to Imani, eyes scanning with surgical precision. Imani Cross, I've heard so much about your heroic rescue. Tell me, was it instinct or calculation that made you throw yourself in front of a bullet? Instinct. I didn't have time to calculate. How refreshing. Most people in our world do nothing but calculate. It must be liberating to act without thinking through consequences. The insult was wrapped in compliment wrapping, delivered with a smile that never wavered. I find that people who overthink tend to paralyze themselves, Imani replied smoothly. Sometimes action is more valuable than perfect planning. Interesting philosophy. I wonder if you'll maintain it once you understand what this family actually does. The weight of the decisions we make. The lives that depend on us getting those calculations exactly right. Sangmi turned to Ray. I need to discuss the quarterly reports with you. Several discrepancies that require your attention. Tomorrow. Tonight is about celebration, not business. Of course. Forgive me. I sometimes forget that romance should take precedence over the survival of our organization. She smiled at Imani again. Enjoy your evening. I'm sure it will be memorable. She glided away, leaving tension in her wake. She hates me, Imani said. She hates everyone. Don't take it personally. Sangmi has wanted control of this organization since we were children. My father choosing me, then me choosing an outsider as a bride, feels like a personal insult to her competence. Is she dangerous? Extremely. But she's also pragmatic. As long as I'm useful to her career, she won't move against me openly. The moment I become a liability, she'll gut me without hesitation. Welcome to Family Dynamics in Organized Crime. More guests approached, more conversations that felt like chess matches. Imani was starting to recognize patterns. The Korean faction asked about cultural assimilation and respect for tradition. The Nigerian faction focused on loyalty and strength. Everyone wanted to know if she understood what she was getting into, and whether she'd crack under pressure. During a lull, Imani excused herself to the restroom, and Kim shadowed her silently, taking position outside the door. Inside the ornate bathroom, she gripped the marble counter and stared at her reflection. The woman looking back seemed like a stranger. Elegant, composed, belonging in a world of crystal chandeliers and casual cruelty. When had the performance started feeling less like a lie? The door opened. Sangmi entered, checking her makeup in the mirror like Imani wasn't even there. For a long moment, neither spoke. You're smarter than you look, Sangmi finally said. I was expecting some desperate gold digger. Instead, I get someone who actually listens and thinks before speaking. Interesting. Thanks, I think. It's not a compliment. It's an observation. Smart can be useful or dangerous depending on whose side you're on. She pulled out lipstick, applied it with precision. I'm going to give you advice you didn't ask for because I suspect you'll actually hear it. Don't trust Wai Young. She's a manipulator of the highest order. Everything she does serves a purpose you won't see until it's too late. She chose you, yes, but not for the reasons you think. And why did she choose me? Because you're expendable. An outsider with no connections, no power base, no family in the business. If this engagement strategy fails, if you become a liability, Ray can dispose of you without political complications. You're a test case. A proof of concept. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you disappear and they try something else. The words landed like ice water. Because they made horrible sense. Why tell me this? Because I want to see what you do with the information. Whether you run, or fight, or do something unexpected. You're a variable in an equation I don't like, Miss Cross. Variables get eliminated or they get controlled. Figure out which one you want to be. Sangmi left without waiting for a response. Imani stood alone in the bathroom. Her reflection now looking less like a stranger and more like a trapped animal wearing an expensive dress. When she emerged, Ray was waiting, concern flickering across his features. You were gone a while. Sangmi found me. She warned me about your mother. Said I'm expendable. She's trying to destabilize you. Create doubt. Don't let her. Is she wrong though? If this arrangement stops being useful, what happens to me? Ray was quiet for a moment too long. Let's discuss this somewhere private. He led her through the mansion to a balcony overlooking the gardens. The party continued inside, muffled by glass and distance. Out here, the night was cold and quiet. Sang-mi is right about one thing, Ray said carefully. You're a calculated risk. Everything in this world is calculated risk. Yes, you're an outsider without protection beyond what I provide. Yes, that makes you vulnerable. But it also makes you valuable in ways she doesn't understand. You have no agenda except survival. No competing loyalties. No legacy expectations. That clarity is rare and precious. That's not an answer to my question. The answer is that I won't let anything happen to you as long as you're useful to me and mine. The moment you betray us, all bets are off. Is that the reassurance you wanted? Because it's the only honest one I can give. At least it's honest. I don't traffic in comfortable lies, Imani. This life is dangerous. You could die tomorrow from Viper's people, or a random bullet, or bad luck. I can't promise you safety. I can only promise I'll do everything in my power to keep you alive because losing you would be inconvenient and expensive. In this world, that's as close to love as most people get. It shouldn't have been comforting. But somehow, in its brutal honesty, it was. We should get back, Imani said. People will notice we're gone. Let them notice. Let them see we're comfortable enough with each other to step away. It reinforces the narrative. But as they stood there in the cold night air, Imani realized something had shifted. This was no longer just performance. She was starting to understand how he thought, starting to anticipate his moves, starting to see the world through his eyes, where every action had consequences that rippled outward, where showing weakness meant death for people who depended on you. She was becoming complicit, not just in appearance, but in truth. They returned to the party together, and Imani noticed Marcus Okafor watching them from across the room. His expression was unreadable, but he was definitely paying attention. She thought about Wai-Young's request to observe him. Throughout the evening, she'd noticed him making 3 separate phone calls, each time stepping into quieter corners. Could be innocent, could be something else. As the party wound down, guests began departing with promises to see each other soon and veiled assessments of how well Imani had performed. The general consensus seemed to be cautious approval. She hadn't embarrassed herself or Ray. That was apparently success in this world. Finally, it was just family remaining. Wai-Young, Ray, Sang-mi, Marcus, Tobias, and a few other key lieutenants. The atmosphere shifted from performance to business. Congratulations, Marcus said, raising his glass. To Ray and his bride. May this union bring strength to our family and fear to our enemies. Everyone drank. But Imani noticed Marcus's eyes stayed on her, assessing, calculating something. Miss Cross, he said, I'm curious. In all the conversations tonight, did anyone strike you as insincere? As perhaps playing a role rather than offering genuine welcome? The room went quiet. Everyone watching to see how she'd answer. It was a test. Maybe the most important one of the night. Imani met Marcus's gaze directly, refusing to look away or toward Ray for guidance. If she was going to survive in this world, she needed to stand on her own assessments. Everyone here was playing a role to some degree, she said carefully. That's what gatherings like this are. Political theater. The question isn't who was insincere, but whose performance revealed something they didn't intend to show. Marcus's eyebrows rose. And did anyone reveal such things? Several people. But I'd rather discuss my observations privately with Ray and Mrs. Yoon. Speaking openly about perceived weaknesses in front of those who might exploit them seems counterproductive. A slow smile spread across Marcus's face. Smart. Very smart. You're learning quickly. He turned to Ray. I withdraw my earlier reservations. She'll do. The tension in the room eased fractionally. Imani had apparently passed whatever test Marcus had designed, though she wasn't entirely sure how. The gathering broke up shortly after. Sang-mi left with barely concealed irritation. Tobias clapped Ray on the shoulder and told Imani she'd exceeded expectations. The other lieutenants filed out with respectful nods, already mentally moving on to tomorrow's business. Soon it was just Ray, Wai-Young, and Imani in the vast reception room. Staff moved efficiently through the space, clearing champagne glasses and flower arrangements like erasing evidence of the evening. You did exceptionally well, Wai-Young said. Better than I'd hoped. Several people who came ready to dismiss you left reconsidering their positions. That's a significant victory. Marcus asked me about sincerity. That felt pointed. It was. He's concerned about internal security. Someone has been leaking information to Viper about our shipment schedules and safe house locations. Marcus is trying to determine who. Wai-Young studied Imani's face. Did you notice anything about him during the evening? Imani hesitated. He made several phone calls. Stepped away 3 times to different locations. Could be normal business. Could be something else. I couldn't hear the conversations. 3 calls. Ray's voice sharpened. You're certain? Yes. Once around 8. Again, near 9:30. The last one, maybe 20 minutes before people started leaving. Ray and Wai-Young exchanged glances that communicated something Imani couldn't decode. That's more than usual, Wai-Young said quietly. Marcus typically doesn't conduct business during social events. He considers it disrespectful. Unless the business was urgent, Ray added. Or he was reporting to someone. Mother, we need to look into this. Carefully. Agreed. But not tonight. Tonight we celebrate a successful debut. She turned to Imani. Get some rest, child. Tomorrow the real work begins. You've proven you can handle social warfare. Now we'll see if you can handle everything else this life requires. Imani left them discussing logistics in low voices, Kim falling into step behind her as she climbed the stairs to her wing. Her feet ached from heels she'd worn for 6 hours. Her face hurt from smiling. Her brain felt scraped raw from constant vigilance. In her room, she kicked off the shoes and let Zahara help her out of the dress. The necklace came off last, heavy and cold in her hands. She stared at it for a long moment before placing it carefully in its box. You survived, Zahara said, hanging the dress with reverent care. Most people don't make it through their first major event without at least one significant mistake. You were flawless. I wasn't. I was terrified the entire time. Which is why you were flawless. Terror keeps you sharp. Overconfidence gets you killed. She moved toward the door. Mrs. Yoon asked me to tell you something. She's pleased with your observation about Marcus. Said it confirms her instincts about you. What instincts? That you see things others miss. That you're valuable beyond the political symbolism. That's dangerous knowledge, Miss Cross. Once they realize you're useful, they'll never let you go. Zahara left, and Imani was alone with that truth. She'd entered this arrangement thinking she could survive a year, take the money, and disappear into a new life. But she was starting to understand that people didn't just leave this world. They died in it, or they became it. She looked at her phone. Text from Malik. Hope your new job is going well. Dad says you sound happy. I'm proud of you, sis. Guilt twisted her stomach. Malik thought she'd finally caught a break. Instead, she was neck-deep in organized crime, playing spy games with people who'd kill her without losing sleep if she became inconvenient. She should warn him. Tell him to be careful. But what could she say that wouldn't terrify him or make him do something reckless? Instead, she typed, job is intense but good. Miss you. Study hard. Love you. Safe. Meaningless. A lie wrapped in truth. Sleep didn't come easily. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Marcus making those phone calls, saw Sangmi's calculating stare, saw David park bloody in that basement chair. This was her world now. Violence and manipulation wrapped in expensive suits and polite conversation. The next morning, Wayung summoned her early. Imani found her in a private office on the second floor, surrounded by monitors showing security feeds from various locations around the city. Sit, Wayung commanded. We need to discuss Marcus. You think he's the leak? I think he's suspicious. The timing of those calls, the frequency, the need for privacy during a social event. It warrants investigation. I want you to get close to him. Build rapport. He trusts Ray, but he's cautious around anyone in Ray's immediate circle. You're new. He might let his guard down. You want me to spy on one of your most trusted people. I want you to observe and report. There's a difference. Marcus has been with this family for 15 years. If he's betraying us, I need to know why. If he's innocent, I need to eliminate him as a suspect so we can focus elsewhere. And how exactly do I get close to someone who probably sees me as a potential security risk? By being useful to him. Marcus values competence. Show him you're not just decorative. That you understand operational security. That you can think strategically. He'll start confiding in you, testing you, bringing you into his confidence to evaluate your potential. This feels like playing with fire. Everything in this life is playing with fire. The question is whether you're willing to accept the burns. Wayung pulled up a file on one of her screens. Marcus has a weakness. His daughter. She's 16, attending a private school in Evanston. Straight A student, plans to study medicine. He wants her kept completely separate from the family business. If you show genuine interest in her well-being and helping ensure she gets into a good university, he'll soften toward you. That's manipulative. That's strategy. I'm not asking you to threaten his daughter. I'm suggesting you bond with him over something he actually cares about. Most people in our world don't have that luxury. Marcus does. Use it. Imani stared at the photo on screen. A beautiful teenage girl with her father's eyes, smiling at a school event, completely unaware of the world her father inhabited. What if he is the traitor? What happens to him? Then he answers for it. But his daughter remains untouched. We're not monsters, Imani. We have rules. Children are off limits unless they choose to enter this life themselves. That's a remarkably civilized rule for criminals to follow. Civilization requires rules. Even criminal civilization. Without boundaries, without honor codes however twisted they might seem to outsiders, everything devolves into chaos. Chaos is bad for business and worse for survival. Wayung closed the file. You start today? Marcus will be here this afternoon for a strategy meeting about Viper's recent movements. I want you to observe. Then afterward, find a reason to talk to him privately. Feel him out. See if he gives you anything useful. The meeting happened in Ray's office. Imani sat in the corner, officially there as Ray's fiancée, actually there to watch and listen. Marcus spread maps across the desk, marking locations where Viper's people had been spotted. He's getting bolder, Marcus said. 3 attempted hits on our shipments in the past 2 weeks. He knows our routes, our schedules. Someone is feeding him information. Any progress on identifying the leak? Ray asked. We've eliminated most of the lower-level people. Whoever it is has access to high-level operational details. That narrows the suspect pool considerably. Marcus glanced at Imani. No offense, Miss Cross, but you're on that list. None taken. I'd be stupid not to suspect someone who appeared out of nowhere and got immediate access to family operations. Exactly. So help me understand. What's your angle here? What do you get out of this arrangement beyond the obvious financial incentives? Imani had been prepared for this question. Young had coached her on how to answer. But in the moment, she decided to go off script. Honestly, I'm terrified and out of my depth. But I'm also tired of being powerless. My whole life has been about surviving on scraps while people with resources made decisions that crushed people like me. Maybe this is wrong. Maybe I'm making a terrible mistake. But at least here, I have a chance to matter. To protect my family. To be something more than just another person struggling to make rent. Marcus studied her for a long moment. That's the first completely honest thing anyone has said in this room in months. Most people lie to me, or they tell me what they think I want to hear. You just admitted weakness. That takes either courage or stupidity. Probably both. He almost smiled. You have kids, Miss Cross? No. A younger brother, though. 16. He's the reason I do any of this. The reason I work 3 jobs. The reason I agreed to this insanity. Everything I do is to make sure he has opportunities one never had. Something softened in Marcus's expression. I have a daughter. 17. Wants to be a doctor. I work in this world, do the things I do, so she never has to. So she can live clean and normal and never know what her father really is. That must be hard. Keeping those worlds separate. Harder than anything I've ever done. But worth it. She got accepted to Northwestern's early admission program. Pre-med track. She'll be the first person in our family to go to college. Pride filled his voice, genuine and unguarded. Everything I've built, every compromise I've made, it's all for her. Imani saw the opening Young had predicted. That's beautiful. I'm sure she'll do amazing things. My brother wants to study engineering. I'm trying to make sure he can finish high school without worrying about money. It's not much compared to Northwestern, but it matters. It matters more than you know. Kids who know their family is fighting for them, they try harder. They succeed more. That's worth any price. Marcus turned back to the maps. All right, you're off my suspect list for now. Anyone willing to admit they're scared and focused on family isn't calculated enough to be a spy. Spies are better liars. Should I be insulted that you think I'm a bad liar? In this world? Take it as a compliment. The meeting continued, but something had shifted. Marcus included Imani in discussions now instead of speaking around her. Asked her opinion on potential security weaknesses. Listened when she pointed out that Viper's attack pattern suggested he had information about shipment routes, but not about the backup protocols. She's right, Tobias said, studying the map with new interest. Every hit has been on primary routes. He's never touched our alternates. Either he doesn't know about them, or he's deliberately avoiding them. Why would he avoid them? Ray asked. To maintain the illusion that his information is more complete than it is, Imani suggested. If he hits everything, we know exactly how much he knows. If he only hits primary routes, we second-guess ourselves. Wonder if the alternates are compromised too. It creates paranoia and hesitation. Marcus nodded slowly. That's good strategic thinking. Viper's smart enough to play the long game like that. Which means our leak might have more limited access than we feared. The meeting broke up with slightly less tension than it had started. Marcus approached Imani as she was leaving. You did good in there. Keep thinking like that, and you'll earn your place here through merit, not just politics. He hesitated. My daughter. She's having trouble with her college essay. Keeps second-guessing herself. Thinks it's not good enough. You went to college, right? 2 years. Before life got complicated. Would you be willing to look at it? Give her some feedback? She needs a woman's perspective. Someone who understands what it's like to fight for education when the world keeps putting obstacles in your path. It was the exact opportunity Young had predicted. The chance to get close to Marcus through his daughter. Imani knew she should say yes immediately, play the role, advance the agenda. But looking at Marcus's face, seeing genuine fatherly concern there, she felt something twist in her chest. This was manipulation. Using a teenage girl's college aspirations to spy on her father. It was exactly the kind of casual cruelty she'd always hated about powerful people. And she was about to do it anyway. I'd be happy to help, she said. Just have her send it to me. I'll give her honest feedback. Thank you. Really, this means a lot. He pulled out his phone. I'll text you her email. And Miss Cross, you're going to do fine here. You've got good instincts. Trust them. He left, and Imani stood alone in the hallway feeling like she'd just crossed a line she couldn't uncross. She was actively deceiving a man who'd just shown her genuine kindness. Using his love for his daughter as a weapon. This was who she was becoming. Ray found her a few minutes later, still standing in the same spot. Marcus trusts you now. I could see it. That's good work. It's disgusting work. It's necessary work. If he's the leak, his trust gives us access to discover it. If he's innocent, then you've made a valuable ally. Either way, we win. And his daughter? She's just collateral damage in your strategy games. His daughter is fine. You'll probably give her good advice on her essay. She'll get into medical school. Her life continues exactly as planned. Where's the damage? The damage is that I'm using her to manipulate her father. The damage is that I'm becoming exactly the kind of person I've always despised. Someone who sees human connections as leverage. Ray was quiet for a moment. You think I don't hate what this life requires? You think I enjoy turning relationships into transactions? I don't. But the alternative is weakness, and weakness gets people killed. Not just me. Everyone who depends on me. So yes, we use every advantage, every connection, every pressure point. Because our enemies certainly will. When does it stop? When do you get to just be human instead of calculating? Never. That's the price of power. You don't get to turn it off. He started to walk away, then paused. But for what it's worth, the fact that it bothers you means you haven't lost yourself completely. Hold on to that. It's the only thing that keeps you from becoming a monster. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever had to choose between doing the right thing and doing the smart thing? Between protecting yourself and protecting your values? Because that's where Imani is right now. Caught between survival and soul. And honestly, I don't know which one wins. Drop a comment and tell me what you would do in her situation. Would you play the game or refuse to participate even if it meant losing everything? And if you're still riding this roller coaster with us, hit that subscribe button. Because we're about to find out if Imani can navigate this world without losing who she is. Or if that's even possible. Over the next week, Imani fell into a routine that felt simultaneously normal and completely insane. Mornings meant combat training with Nkem, learning how to fight dirty and survive dangerous situations. Afternoons were spent in meetings, observing how Ray's organization actually functioned. Evenings belonged to language lessons and strategic planning sessions with Wayang. And in between all of it, she corresponded with Marcus's daughter, Amara. The girl's college essay was actually good, thoughtful and personal, about growing up watching her father work impossible hours to provide for her, about understanding sacrifice even when you didn't understand the specifics of what was being sacrificed. Imani gave genuine feedback, helped her strengthen weak paragraphs, encouraged her to trust her voice. It felt like the only honest thing she'd done in days. You're good at this, Amara wrote in one email. My English teacher just tells me to add more detail. You actually explain why certain parts work and others don't. Thank you. Guilt ate at Imani every time she saw Marcus after that. He'd thank her for helping Amara, and she'd smile and say it was her pleasure, all while knowing she was gathering information about his schedule, his habits, his vulnerabilities. But nothing she observed suggested betrayal. Marcus was careful, yes. Paranoid about security, absolutely. But that seemed appropriate for someone in his position. The phone calls she'd noticed at the engagement party, he'd made them to his daughter's school, checking on a grade dispute that had since been resolved. After 2 weeks of observation, Imani reported to Wayang with confidence. It's not Marcus. He's clean. You're certain? As certain as I can be. He's protective of information, but that's because he's good at his job. Every communication I've seen has been legitimate. Every concern he's raised has been valid. If he's Viper's spy, he's so good at it that we'd never catch him anyway. Wayang studied her for a long moment. You like him. That's clouding your judgment. Maybe, but I also think you're letting paranoia cloud yours. Marcus has been loyal to this family for 15 years. One evening of phone calls during a party doesn't erase that history. Loyalty is a commodity like any other. It can be bought and sold and traded away when the price is right. Then everyone is suspect, and trust becomes impossible. You can't run an organization where nobody trusts anyone. Eventually, it collapses from internal paranoia. Spoken like someone who's never been betrayed by people they trusted completely. But Wayang's voice had lost some of its edge. Fine. We'll move Marcus down the suspect list. But we still have a leak. Someone is feeding Viper information that's costing us money and lives. If it's not Marcus, then who? Imani thought about everyone she'd observed over the past weeks. The lieutenants and captains who cycled through the mansion. The staff who moved silently through rooms, invisible but seeing everything. The business partners who came for meetings wearing expensive suits and practice smiles. What about Sangmi? Wayang's expression froze. Why would you suspect Sangmi? She has access to everything. Financial records, operational schedules, strategic planning. She's brilliant with numbers and systems. And she made it very clear at the engagement party that she resents Ray's leadership. What if her resentment pushed her towards something more active? Sangmi is family. So was Marcus until 2 weeks ago when you had me investigating him. Family doesn't guarantee loyalty. You taught me that. Wayang was silent for a long time, fingers steepled under her chin. Sangmi is dangerous to accuse without absolute proof. She has her own power base, her own loyalists. Moving against her could split the organization completely. I'm not saying move against her. I'm saying watch her the way you had me watch Marcus. See if the pattern fits. You're learning quickly, perhaps too quickly, but there was something like pride in Wayang's voice. All right, observe Sangmi, but carefully. She's far more perceptive than Marcus. If she realizes you're watching her, she'll either use it against you or eliminate you as a threat. Over the next few days, Imani paid closer attention to Sangmi's movements. The woman was meticulous and controlled, never showing emotion unnecessarily, always 3 steps ahead in every conversation. But there were small things. Inconsistencies in her schedule, Meetings that ran longer than their official duration. A new phone she used for certain calls, separate from her primary device. It wasn't proof, but it was pattern. And patterns meant something in this world. The breaking point came during a shipment that was supposed to be completely secure. Only 5 people knew the route and timing. Ray, Wayung, Marcus, Tobias, and Sangmi. The shipment was hit anyway. Clean operation. Professional. Viper's people knew exactly where to strike and when. In the aftermath, with 3 men dead and $500,000 in merchandise gone, Ray called an emergency meeting. The tension in the room was suffocating. Someone here is betraying us, Ray said, his voice cold and controlled. Someone in this room is feeding information to Viper. I want to know who and I want to know why. We've been through this, Sangmi said, not looking up from her tablet. We've investigated everyone. Run background checks. Monitored communications. Either we're dealing with someone impossibly careful or we're chasing shadows. Or we're not looking at the right people, Imani said quietly. Every head turned toward her. She felt the weight of their stares, felt the danger in speaking up, but pushed forward anyway. We've been assuming the leak is someone lower level. Someone with limited access who's been carefully gathering information. What if it's the opposite? What if it's someone with complete access who doesn't need to be careful because their position makes them invisible to suspicion? What are you suggesting? Tobias asked, voice dangerous. I'm suggesting that we've been looking down when we should be looking across. The leak has to be someone at this table. Someone who knew about today's shipment. The room erupted. Accusations flew. Marcus demanded to know if Imani was accusing him after he'd trusted her. Tobias stood up, ready to defend his honor. Sangmi watched it all with calculating eyes. Ray slammed his hand on the table. Enough. She's right to raise the question. We've eliminated everyone else. That leaves us. He turned to Imani. Do you have a specific accusation or just general paranoia? This was the moment. The choice that would define everything that came after. Imani could back down, apologize, retreat into safety. Or she could commit fully to the world she'd entered. She thought about her mother. About the bullet she'd taken. About Malik and her father depending on her to survive. About becoming someone who mattered instead of someone who was crushed by systems she couldn't control. I think it's Sangmi, Imani said clearly. I think she's been feeding information to Viper to destabilize Ray's leadership. Not because she wants Viper to win, but because she wants Ray to fail. She wants the organization to see him as weak, so they'll turn to her instead. The silence that followed was absolute. Sangmi set down her tablet slowly, deliberately. That's a very serious accusation. Do you have any proof, or are you simply trying to eliminate competition for Ray's attention? I have observation. You have a second phone you use for certain calls. Your meetings run longer than scheduled. You've been in contact with someone outside our network using encrypted applications. And you're the only person who benefits from Ray looking incompetent. Encrypted communications are standard security practice. My meetings run long because I'm thorough. And I have a second phone because I separate business from personal calls. None of that proves anything. Then prove me wrong. Let us examine both phones. Show us your communication logs. If you're innocent, you have nothing to hide. Sangmi's smile was sharp as glass. And if I refuse this invasion of privacy, does that make me guilty in your eyes? It makes you suspicious, Ray said, standing. Sangmi, I need you to cooperate. If Imani is wrong, we'll apologize and move on. But if she's right, we need to know now. You take the word of this outsider over family? Over someone who's been part of this organization since before you could walk? I'd take evidence over blind loyalty. Show us the phones. For a long moment, Sangmi didn't move. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out both devices. Placed them on the table. Fine. Violate my privacy. Destroy trust. See where that gets you. Marcus took the phones, started examining them with the efficiency of someone trained in digital forensics. Minutes passed in tense silence. Then his expression changed. Boss, you need to see this. Ray moved to look at the screen. His face went carefully blank, which somehow made him more terrifying than if he'd shown rage. Sangmi, explain why you have detailed records of our shipment schedules in an encrypted file labeled insurance. Because I'm protecting myself. You're unstable, Ray. This marriage to a complete outsider proves it. I wanted documentation of our operations in case you drove everything into the ground and I needed to rebuild. Rebuild or sell. Because these files have been accessed from an external IP address. Multiple times. Someone outside our network has been reading our operational details. Sangmi's composure finally cracked. That's impossible. My encryption is military grade. Clearly not. Or Viper is better at cracking encryption than you thought. Ray's voice could have cut steel. You've been compromised. Whether intentionally or through arrogance, doesn't matter. You gave our enemy everything he needed to destroy us. I didn't give him anything. If someone accessed those files, they did it without my knowledge or permission. This is a setup. Is it? Or are you just realizing your plan failed? Ray turned to Marcus and Tobias. Secure her. We'll investigate fully. If she's a knowing traitor, she answers for it. If she was simply careless with classified information, we'll discuss consequences once we've contained the damage. Marcus moved towards Sangmi, but she was faster. She grabbed a letter opener from the desk, held it like she knew how to use it. Don't touch me. I'm not some low-level soldier you can disappear. I'm family. I have rights. I have loyalists who won't accept this treatment. Then call them, Ray said calmly. See if any of them are willing to go to war over your ambition and incompetence. See if your pride is worth splitting this organization apart. The standoff held for heartbeats that felt like hours. Then Sang-mi lowered the letter opener, her face a mask of controlled fury. This isn't over, Ray. You've chosen an outsider over blood. That will cost you more than you can imagine. Get her out of here, Ray commanded. Secure location. Full surveillance. Nobody contacts her until we know the extent of the damage. As they led Sang-mi away, Imani felt simultaneously vindicated and horrified. She'd been right. But being right meant she'd just made an enemy who had resources and motivation to destroy her. Ray turned to her once the room had cleared. You took a significant risk. If you'd been wrong, your position here would have become untenable. I know, but I was right. You were. The question is what we do with that information now. Sang-mi wasn't wrong about one thing. I did choose you over family. That sends a message I can't take back. What message is that? That loyalty and competence matter more than bloodlines. That I'm building something new, not maintaining something old. Some people will respect that. Others will see it as betrayal. He moved closer, and Imani was suddenly aware of how alone they were. You're not just a political symbol anymore. You're a real player in this game. That makes you valuable. It also makes you a target. Are you ready for that? Imani thought about everything that had led to this moment. The gas station, the forced engagement, the slow transformation from victim to participant to strategist. She thought about Malik and her father, safe because of choices she'd made. About Marcus's daughter, getting genuine help with her future. About David Park, saved from torture by mercy instead of violence. She thought about who she'd been 3 weeks ago, and who she was becoming now. I don't know if I'm ready, she said honestly. But I'm not backing down. I've come too far to retreat now. So yes, I'm in. All the way. Ray studied her face, and something shifted in his expression. Something that looked almost like respect mixed with something more dangerous. Something that felt like recognition. Then welcome to the family business, Imani Cross. For better or worse, you're one of us now. And standing there in the mansion that had been her prison and was now becoming her kingdom, Imani realized with perfect clarity that she'd stopped trying to escape weeks ago. She'd stopped being a victim pretending to play a role. She'd become something else entirely. Someone who saw the game clearly and had decided to win it. 6 months ago, she'd been delivering fried chicken at 3 in the morning, one emergency away from losing everything. Now she stood in the center of a criminal empire, having just exposed a traitor, wearing clothes that cost more than her old car, with armed men who'd die for her if ordered. Her phone buzzed. Text from Malik. Just got my SAT scores back. 1,420. You always said I could do it. Thank you for believing in me. Tears stung her eyes. This was why. This was always why. Everything she'd done, every line she'd crossed, every piece of her soul she'd compromised. So Malik could live clean and safe and normal. So he could have the future she'd lost. Even if it meant she could never go back to being the person who'd raised him. You okay? Ray asked, seeing her expression. Yeah, Imani said, pocketing her phone. Just remembering why I agreed to all this. Why I keep agreeing, every day. Family. Family. The only thing worth selling your soul for. Then you understand me better than most. That's dangerous knowledge, Imani. Once you understand why I do what I do, it becomes harder to judge me for it. She met his eyes. Maybe I've stopped judging. Maybe I'm just trying to survive long enough to make sure the people I love get to live better lives than I did. That's all any of us are doing. We just have different methods. He moved toward the door, paused. The wedding is in 3 months. Real wedding this time, not just an engagement party. After that, you'll have full access to everything. Full power. Full responsibility. Use these months to decide if that's really what you want. Because once we're married, there's no pretending anymore. You'll be as guilty as I am of everything we do. He left her alone with that truth. 3 months to decide if she could live with being a criminal. 3 months to figure out if the power was worth the price. Imani walked to the window, looked out at Chicago spreading below her like a kingdom waiting to be conquered or a prison waiting to close completely. She didn't know which it would be, but she knew with certainty that she was done being powerless, done being invisible, done letting the world crush her without fighting back. Whatever came next, whoever she became, at least she'd matter. At least she'd be dangerous instead of disposable. And maybe that was enough. Maybe that had to be enough. Because there was no going back now. Only forward, into darkness or light or something in between. If you made it this far, you're part of Imani's journey now. You've watched her transform from a broke delivery driver to a mafia queen in training. The question is, has she lost herself or found herself? Drop a comment with your honest thoughts. And if you want to see what happens when the wedding day finally arrives, when she stops being Ray's pretend fiancée and becomes his actual wife with all the power and danger that brings, hit that subscribe button and smash the notification bell. Because this is just the beginning of Imani's story. The real war hasn't even started yet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.